Hi everyone, welcome to this webinar. My name is Adam Bergh. I'm with Kasten by Veeam. Today's presentation is going to be called Kasten K10 by Veeam, Essential Kubernetes Protection and Disaster Recovery. Thank you so much for spending some of your time with us today. Today's presentation is really going to be talking about how did we get to this point where backup and recovery is essential now to all organizations running a Kubernetes environment, and the maturation of this space has really accelerated incredibly over the last couple of years, really. And we're going to talk about some of the reasons why that is, and then we're going to talk about why Kasten K10 is an essential component of that deployment of your Kubernetes. So let's go right into it here. So a little bit about the market and about the space. What is really driving Kubernetes, and what is driving the maturation of Kubernetes for most organizations? Maybe you're just starting your journey into Kubernetes. Maybe your organization is well on your way, right? But what's really driving everyone to look at Kubernetes, and possibly why you're here today on this webinar? And what's at the beginning of this, it's really about this concept of infrastructure transformation, right? The ability to now have applications running much closer to the consumers of those applications. The ability to move applications around to different environments, whether that's your on-premises data centers to up to a public cloud, or maybe to multiple public clouds. Maybe you need to move it to different availability zones in a single public cloud, or move it from maybe from one public cloud like AWS over to Azure, right? This ability to redefine what infrastructure means for individual applications or groups of applications or entire organizations is really driving what Kubernetes really delivers for organizations. That hybrid cloud approach. So, applications don't just live in a single data center anymore. They're constantly being shifted and moved all around. So Kubernetes is really an enabler of the hybrid cloud model that organizations really desire now, and what really drives value for your data. And as we see Kubernetes being that preferred orchestration and management tool for data, you're seeing much more adoption of stateful applications into this space, right? Early on, I think people thought Kubernetes was a place for stateless applications, transient data, applications that really didn't need to be protected. That's not the case anymore. We're seeing massive adoption of stateful databases, stateful workloads into these Kubernetes environments. But it's not only that; it's also the policies and the security and the construction of applications that also needs to be protected here, because that's critical to maintaining that 100% uptime environment that organizations are striving for. So what are customers really asking for from a data protection tool for Kubernetes, right? I think we all know that data protection is essential, right? Data really is the lifeblood of most organizations. When they're looking at data protection for their Kubernetes environments, number one, their ask is, I want something that's Kubernetes native. I'm not looking for a bolt-on or add-on product to a legacy data protection tool, right? There's a lot of organizations out there that are taking their legacy products that were designed for physical infrastructure, maybe traditional virtualized infrastructure, and they're bolting on a Kubernetes data protection tool onto that. Something that's native, built from the ground up, that lives within your K8s environment is a real desire, real requirement for a lot of organizations. And along with that, it's the freedom of choice of Kubernetes distributions, right? We're seeing a lot of different flavors and variations on Kubernetes, whether that's something like on-premises with a VMware Tanzu environment, or up in AWS or Azure, or something like Rancher. There's different variations and flavors of Kubernetes, and most organizations aren't really settling on any one, right? They might be running one flavor on premises, one up in one public cloud and another in a different public cloud, and they move their applications in between these different flavors and variations of Kubernetes they want to have a single tool that can protect and manage that data wherever it lives in whatever flavor of Kubernetes distribution that their organization might be using today or they might be using tomorrow. Multi-layered consistency is a hard requirement as well, right? Being able to not only protect that stateful data that's within their application sets within Kubernetes, but the consistency around the entire namespace or the entire applications themselves. So that's a critical capability that is a requirement. So when we're recovering an application or a whole namespace within Kubernetes, there is much more than just the stateful data that is required to bring that application back online. And DevOps speed and scale, right? Kubernetes is really all about agility, shifting left your DevOps and your life cycle of your applications. And they're looking for a data protection company and tool that understands that and can move with the agility and speed of DevOps and data ops for organizations. And that's really where the genesis of Kasten K10 was really born from, is meeting these key customer requirements. And that brings us into Kasten's mission statement. We're founded really around tackling day 2 data management challenges for Kubernetes, helping enterprises confidently run their data within that environment. If you're not confident that your data is protected and always available, it's not going to lead to adoption and innovation within your organization. Kasten's making that possible through the best of breed backup and recovery, best of breed application mobility, and best of breed data disaster recovery for your data. We're going to be talking about these in depth here a little bit to kind of give you an idea why each one of these are critical capabilities that you're going to want to have in your day 2 data management application. So Kasten K10 was purpose built for these processes. We are really out there providing enterprise scale operations that's very, very full featured and mature, but also easy to use, scalable, completely secure, covering all the backup and recovery needs that your organization has, but also disaster recovery, full site recovery, cloud to cloud recovery, and the mobility of applications. So we are undisputed, without a doubt, the number 1 data protection, day 2 data management player in the Kubernetes space. We are built for Kubernetes, built from the ground up, purpose built, right, for these tasks. This is not a bolt-on product. This is not a product that's being added onto existing tool. Kasten understands Kubernetes because we're born with Kubernetes. We support a rich ecosystem of not only Kubernetes distributions and flavors, but also the applications themselves that are most commonly run inside of Kubernetes environments. Think like Cassandra, think MySQL, or MariaDB. These applications and databases that are constantly, commonly being run. We need to protect those in an application consistent way as they run on top of Kubernetes. That is completely built in to Kasten K10. Not only that, there's a rich ecosystem of underlying infrastructure that's also supported, right? There's still physical infrastructure that Kubernetes runs on top of, and you want to be able to integrate with that physical storage that your data resides on. So we can take advantage of things like hardware-based snapshot acceleration technology for protecting this data. And Kasten's K10 has the best ecosystem and alliance partner capabilities in the industry for that underlying infrastructure as well. Don't forget about security, right? Security is top of mind in every CIO, CTO's playbook when they're thinking about Kubernetes. How are we going to secure this environment? Well, Kasten has you completely covered end to end with not only support for robust role-based access controls and multi-factor authentications, but also end-to-end encryption, at-rest encryption, and as of our newest 4.0 release, the only Kubernetes data protection tool in the industry that supports object lock immutability APIs. So we can actually guarantee that your data is undeletable, unmodifiable, safe from accidental deletion or malicious insiders, or more commonly ransomware, right? That's going out there and attacking, looking at your secondary sources of data. We have the ability to create immutable copies of that data so that it can be guaranteed that you're able to recover no matter what the circumstance. And we're delivering all this functionality and it's very, very easy to use with the state-of-the-art UI, all browser-based HTML5 with cloud-native APIs across the board, and very easy to install. And I've got a little bit of a demo here coming up for you that will hopefully sort of solidify how easy it is to do a backup and recovery with Kasten K10. I do want to get into a bit of the use cases a little bit, though, however, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about when I talk about backup and restore, disaster recovery, and application mobility. So these are sort of separate functionalities that you're going to want in this day 2 data management tool. With backup, restore, and disaster recovery, we sort of think of these as different topics. And then application mobility is critical in this space when we talk about the hybrid cloud and enabling the ability to move data where it matters most to your organization and getting that data closer to your end user. So in terms of the capabilities for backup and restore, of course, the ability to protect persistent data is a core capability here within your Kubernetes applications. Being able to restore entire application sets to known good working conditions. So we're not only protecting just the persistent data, but everything else that makes up a Kubernetes application itself is also being protected as a whole. So you can do things like repair a badly misconfigured application, right? We can restore things besides just the persistent data, but also the configuration of a namespace or an application or the entire cluster. We're there to provide that robust data protection for databases that may not have their own replication or disaster recovery functionality built into that database. We're there to protect that as a key capability. And if you're not thinking about compliance, you should be. So Kasten K10 can be there as your tool to reproduce environment states in case of an audit compliance, for example, as well. Disaster recovery should be thought about differently than traditional backup and recovery because the challenges are different here than traditional backup an application, restore an application. When you think about disaster recovery, we think about entire site level failover. So this is a much bigger challenge, and to have a tool that can do both backup and recovery and disaster recovery is critical for your organization. So we're able to restore entire clusters to known good states with granular controls as needed. Completely policy-driven automation is part of this, and enabling near zero RTOs for your Kubernetes workloads. Now, what's critical as part of this, and we'll also talk about this in application mobility, is the ability to do storage transforms. So typically, when you're doing a DR event, you're probably restoring to different infrastructure. Maybe it's a different cloud. Maybe your DR site is a physical infrastructure with different storage. Being able to automatically, through policy, do storage transforms in all your persistent volume claims to a different storage is part of this critical capability here that we make it really, really easy to do. And application mobility, this is my favorite capability within K10. Being able to enable your organization to do things like dev on on-premises Kubernetes infrastructure, and then maybe production up in a public cloud. Being able to take those applications and creating life cycles around them, moving them between clusters, between infrastructure as needed, enabling cross-cloud portability for those applications or cross availability zone for those applications. The application transform capability that is built into K10 really makes this possible for your organization to have those applications being built in one location and deployed in another, and keeping those environments separated as needed for your organization. So this is really enabling that hybrid cloud data fabric vision that a lot of organizations have of taking their data and moving it throughout a life cycle and moving that data closer to the end users. So I do want to get into a bit of a demo. I want to show you how Kasten K10 is an application-centric data protection application. We're going to be installing Kasten K10 from scratch and backing up an application and doing a recovery in an application. So we're going to show you the complete application capture, how we abstract the underlying infrastructure, and then how we can coordinate those restore operations. Let's get right into that demo. And here we are in my lab. It's just 3 simple commands to get Kasten's K10 installed here. Add the Helm repo. And then we create a namespace for Kasten with a simple kube control command. And then we use a Helm install command to install Kasten K10. And in just a few minutes, our install will be complete. And we use a kube control command to see if all of our pods are now up and running. And they are. Let's get our service endpoint so we know how to access Kasten's web interface. Now let's jump over to the web interface. This is the interface for Kasten K10. Very modern HTML5 interface. As you can see, K10 automatically discovers all the installed applications automatically. Let's go ahead and install a WordPress application. This is nice because it's a multi-tier application with a database backend with persistent volume to contain the persistent data. As you can see, WordPress is automatically discovered by K10, and you can see the 2 persistent volume claims. The first thing that we want to do in K10 is add a location profile. This will be the destination for our backup data. I'm going to add a generic S3 storage as our backup target. Once that's created, we're going to create a backup policy for our WordPress application. And this is where we set the frequency of our backup. I'm going to set this to hourly and make sure that we enable backups to our S3 target. We have the option to export all of data or only references, and this is where we select the applications. Kasten K10 allows you to add multiple applications per policy if you so choose. Once that policy is created, let's click Run Once to run this policy now. Now our policy is running. Let's go back to the dashboard to check the progress of our backup. In our activity bar, we can see that our backup is now running. Let's drill into the action, and we can see the progress of our backup. Our backup is now complete, and our application is protected. You can see in Kasten K10 interface how much data we've protected, and you can see that our WordPress application is compliant with our policy. Let's delete our WordPress application so we can test our restore functionality. We'll use a Helm command to uninstall the application completely. You can see that our pods are now terminating, and the application now is gone from our Kasten dashboard. However, to recover this data, we can go to our removed applications and choose restore. Choose the restore point and click restore. K10 is now recovering the application from our S3 target. In our activity bar, we can see that the process is running. We can click that to drill into the action. And our application restore is complete. You can see that WordPress is now back as an application and is still compliant with our policy. Let's use a kubectl command to validate that the namespace has been recovered and that the pods are now running in our WordPress namespace. And they're running. That's it for our short demo. As you can see, it couldn't be easier to do a backup and restore with Kasten K10 by Veeam. You're probably thinking to yourself, how do I try out this Kasten K10 for myself? Well, you're in luck. We have a free live online demo, interactive demo that you can go to right now. That website is kasten.io/try-kasten-K10. You can go there right now. You can sign up and do a free live demo interactive. It's a fully functional Kasten K10 environment, so you can try this out for yourself. We also offer free licenses for your production environment for up to 10 pods, and you can go ahead and try that out today. So visit kasten.io today and try out Kasten K10. I thank you so much. And with that, we'll do a bit of Q&A. And everyone, thank you so much. Have a great day.